Hello and welcome to another episode of Game Theory, the #1 DraftKings prep show in all of the land. I am your host, Monk, aka The Monkmatician, and you are here on the Monkmatics channel, gaining knowledge for your upcoming DraftKings slate. UFC 269 happening this Saturday, headlined by Charles Oliveira and Dustin Poirier. I cannot wait for this one. Let's handle some business on the back end first. Last week was probably my worst betting or picks week of all time. I got 5, I think, out of 13 fights, correct? I didn't get any right on the main card. And I told you, in fact, I insisted, I pleaded with you to fade Jose Aldo. In fact, I insisted to fade Jose Aldo. I did know that it was Jose Aldo. I'm just, I don't know. I don't know what happened. I pronounced it Jose Aldo probably 17 out of 23 times last week, and I got all the karma put on me. I mean, what a performance. It was fantastic to watch. I did terrible on DraftKings. I think the winning lineup was like $47,000, something like that. Anyways, guys, without further ado, I won't take up any of your time whining and crying about last week. Let's get right into it. UFC 269, the first fight of the night. Jillian Robertson taking on Priscilla Cachoeira. From a DraftKings standpoint here, let's go. Robertson, $9,300. Priscilla Cachoeira, $6,900. Huge underdog is Cachoeira here in this fight. Both of these girls score really well, especially for the division. Robertson averaging just under 100 points per wins, DraftKings points per wins, in all of her fights there, or in her wins. Sorry, I'm being very redundant. She averages over 3 raw DraftKings points per minute. That is DraftKings points without bonus points, you guys. So this is just pretty much the work rate, if you will, that the fighters go through. 3.06 per minute. She only allows 2.45. Very good top 10 number there. She gives up less than 95 points per loss. That is a bit high, but average for the division. Has a decent salary or a decent value, 8.26. Average salary just over 8,000. She's way above that here. Let's look at Cachoeira. Averages only 2.03 DraftKings points per minute, but when she wins, 107.69 points. That is 7th highest in the division. When she loses, she gives up 117, almost 118 points. That is the bottom 10 of the division. Gives up 5.59 raw DraftKings points per minute. That is huge. If she's not getting the knockout, she is getting beat up. Her average salary only $7,200. That is the cheapest average salary out of every fighter in the division. And she's even cheaper than that on this one. So if you're on the Cachoeira side, you are actually getting a huge value here. Let's move on to DraftKings scoring by method. When Robertson wins, knockout wins, I should say, 110. When she gets a sub win, 98. And even scores very well in decision, 11 highest, 94 points in a decision. She doesn't give up a ton of points. I mean, over 100, that's gonna, pretty much put your opponent on the optimal lineup. But that is the 4th lowest out of all the women that have been knocked out in the flyweight division. I should say these rankings here, there's my cursor. These rankings are out of the division. So if you have less than 3 fights, you are not ranked. It's going to be an NR right there, kind of over here for Priscilla Cachoeira. In this case, it's because she has no sub victories. But if you have under 3 fights, it will say no rank. But if you are ranked, 10 right here in the middle, 44, this black column right in the middle, that tells you how many flyweights or women's flyweights or whatever division we're in that I have in my database. So that's where I get my rankings. And they do have to have at least 3 fights to count. So 10th highest in the division. Or 4th, we're down here. 4th highest in the division, gives up 105. Only 95 in a sub and 88 in a decision. She has scored over 90 DraftKings points in all 6 of her wins. Over 102 and over 110 once. She gives up 90 points in 3 out of 4 losses and 101. Cachoeira on the other side scores very well in a knockout win. Gives up 160 DraftKings points in her 1 submission loss. That is Robertson's path to victory, by the way, is going to be a submission here. Cachoeira scores very well, over 110 in 1 of her 2 wins. Gives up a ton of points as well. 90 in all 3 of her losses. Over 90. Most of her points come from striking and knockdowns. Cachoeira, We look over at Robertson, lots, over 50% from control time and takedowns here. And even just under 7% in reversals. So she does, when she wins, 62 bonus points per win. When she loses, she gives up 60. Priscilla Cachoeira, in 2 wins, she is averaging 92.5 bonus points per win. Doesn't get finished much except for that one submission loss, I believe. And then just some fight statistics. I say this every week. I have not updated these rankings yet. It will be coming probably in our 4-week break. I'm going to overhaul a bunch of stuff. But this just gives a general idea. None of these are gospel. These numbers here just gives me a general idea of who is kind of better statistically from what category. So don't take those as gospel. But if you do, I mean, Cachoeira is towards the bottom of the division. Robertson more towards the middle here. We're not going to go over many stats, just DraftKings stats in this video. So you can just take a look at the rest of this, screenshot, pause it, whatever you need to do. Strength of schedule, much better for Jillian Robertson. Except that strength of victory, neither one of these women have beaten anyone that's statistically has a good strength of schedule. Last 5 fight stats, 2 and 3, both of these women, but Robertson owns the numbers here. Here's how their last 5 shake out. Any common opponents? Not that I see. Cachoeira did get welcomed to the UFC with Valentina Shevchenko. That's cool. That's a good welcome gift. But she has knocked out 2 people in a row. One was Shayna Dobson, one was Gina Mazzani. But Mazzani was winning that fight up until the point where she wasn't. Here are the DraftKings numbers here. Trending down, DraftKings points per minute is Robertson. Trending up is Cachoeira. And here are the projections. Guys, whatever you think is going to happen, here are my projections for that method. It's not an exact science, but I do have a decent formula that goes into this. And lately, except for last week, I have been pretty close. So we have a really good decision prop for Jillian Robertson here. Very, very good. It probably has to do with all of the points Cachoeira generally gives up. And here is our visual recap and aggregate finish percentage numbers. These are all winning statistics. So you can just kind of look through the columns here. I just tend to go by real estate, and if something looks off to me, I kind of take a closer look. But Cachoeira does have more better finish win percentage, bonus points per win, DraftKings points per win, but she gives up a lot when she loses. And then the finish rate here. Lots of finish wins in the UFC for these women, high percentage of finish wins in their career, and a pretty high percentage of finishes and losses as well. I think you got to play, you got to have a piece of both of these women here. They score too high and they give up too many points when they win. So personally, I'm leaning Robertson, but if Cachoeira does win, it's going to be by knockout and it's probably going to be early. Robertson, sub game is on point. Cachoeira has been subbed once in her career, but that's kind of the way I am leaning. So Robertson a bit too high for my liking as far as salary. Next fight, let's keep it moving. Randy Costa going against Tony Kelley. $9,000 for Randy Costa, $7,200 for Kelley. This one's going to be pretty straightforward, so I'll keep it tight and quick. Costa scores very well, second highest out of 79 fighters in the bantamweight division, 5.43 raw DraftKings points per minute. Gives up a lot of points though, 3.69. When Costa wins, and he has won twice in the UFC, 122.94 DraftKings points. That is fantastic. Third highest in the division. Gives up 96.5 points when he loses. He has an average value of 9.88. That is fantastic. He is generally pretty cheap. He is about $1,600 more than his average. Has a very high ceiling, fourth highest on the card. Tony Kelley, in his 2 fights in the UFC, 2.67 DraftKings points per minute, gives up 4.6. That is a huge number. Only score in his 1 win, he scored 50 DraftKings points. Gave up 115 almost when he lost. So average salary $8,000, big time fade. Tony Kelley going against Randy Costa. Costa should have no problem here. His striking is much, much better than obviously Tony Kelley's. This is probably a bounce back fight after the Yanez fight. I would fade the shit out of Tony Kelley. When Randy Costa wins by knockout, 6th highest number, 122.94. When he loses by submission, he gives up the least amount of points. That's just a little bonus fact for you. Yeah, Tony Kelley, 50 points in his decision win and a ton in his decision loss. Randy Costa, only 2 wins in the UFC, but he has scored over 110 points in both of those. Only given up over 100 once. And look at this, Tony Kelley, only 1 loss, but in his 1 loss, he got decisioned for 115 points against. So that is a huge amount of points going against. Striking points, I mean, I'm going to have to look into the stats. I might have spoke poorly of Tony Kelley striking, since almost 100% of his DraftKings points have come from striking, 4.5 on control time. Randy Costa, I was going to say he evens it out, but he is, what is that, 98% striking, 64 plus 30, almost 34 in knockdown points. So you know what he's going to do. His bonus point is literally off the charts. I love saying that because it's literally somewhere up here. You can't even see it. Right here is the number you're looking for. 102.5 bonus points on average when he wins. Only 2 fights, small sample size, but still, that is the 2nd highest number out of 79 fighters in the bantamweight division. Scores just under 20 striking points when he wins. Generally keeps his fights short. When he loses, he gets a lot of points scored on him. So he is getting finished. 70 points on average. Tony Kelley on the other side, nothing. I mean, he gets pieced up. Look at this. Both stand-up and grappling points for his opponents are over 40 per fight. Those are huge numbers. They go to decision, 2 decisions, but still, he's getting beat the fuck up right there. He's only scoring 4 grappling points and 16 striking points in his win. So he is getting beat up, and that is actually only 1 loss, but still, he got beat up. And we'll find out against who. Kai Kamaka absolutely destroyed him. Actually, they both landed the same amount of strikes. Kai Kamaka took him down 5 times, 34% control time. Scored 114 in the win there. So strength of schedule is actually going to go to Tony Kelley for the last 5. And it's not, not really too close. Randy Costa's strength of victory is terrible. And that reminds me, I did tweet out earlier this week, the guy Randy Costa fought 5 fights ago, just 5 fights ago. So 1 fight before he got into the UFC, his current record is 1-11. I don't know what it was when they fought. Probably not much different than that. 1-11, 5 fights ago. So just keep that in mind. I'm not, that's not Randy Costa's fault or anything. And he won that fight, obviously. But I'm just saying, the competition is not there. Brandon Davis, Boston Salmon, Journey Newson, Adrian Yannis is, no offense to the other 3 guys I just named, by far the best caliber opponent on his resume. And Tony Kelley is coming off of a win where it looks like he got beat up in that win. Only 29 punches thrown against for him, 5 takedowns against. I mean, Randy Costa's not taking you down, but if he was, it would probably be easy. Raw DraftKings points, Costa going way up, Kelley going way up as well. And here are my projections. Huge projection for Randy Costa, as you would expect. Look at this real estate. I mean, Kelley has very small numbers here. Just winning the last 5 strength of victory and the aggregate finish rates. So doesn't have to be said, I'm taking Costa for an early finish here. But at 9,000, I mean, he's the cheapest out of the guys that are and girls that are going to expected to score very well. So that's not a bad price for Randy Costa. Next fight, Ryan Hall going against Derek Minner. Let's see. 8,900 for Hall, 7,300 for Minner. I think that is way too much to pay for Hall. He scores 75 points per win. That's it. 75 points per win. Scores only 2.37 points per minute, but has the best defense as far as DraftKings points allowed. Only 1 per minute. That said, when he does lose in his 1 fight, Ilia Topuria, what a fight to watch. 99.6 points scored against. Derek Minner, complete opposite. Scores the 5th highest DraftKings points per minute in all of the featherweight division. 116 per win, gives up 111 per loss. Very, very good. He is under his average salary, and his average value is 16th highest in the division. I'm definitely leaning Derek Minner here, betting and DraftKings. Really, it's probably a lot of bias because I can't stand watching Ryan Hall fight. I cannot stand it. I'll go to a tumbling class if I want to watch people roll around. I mean, what are you doing down there, bud? Derek Minner scores 121.8 per submission win, 110 in his decisions. That is a huge number. Allows a lot of points when he loses. Ryan Hall, when he sub win, only 92.8 points. Decision win, only 68.99. Very low numbers for Hall. He's only scored over 90 one time, whereas Minner has scored over 100 in both of his wins and given up, or 110, I should say, and given up 110 in one of his 2 wins. Both these guys score. Actually, Darrick Minner scores much more on the ground than Ryan Hall does. Surprisingly, 65% of Ryan Hall's DraftKings points, how very few there are, have come from striking. When Hall wins, average 45 bonus points. When Minner wins, average 72.5. Both of them give up very high numbers of bonus points when they lose. And this is why you can't believe these numbers up here. It's just more of an idea. Darrick Minner's not the 5th best featherweight in the division. Of course I know that. But Ryan Hall might be the 50th best. That's for sure. God, I can't stand watching him fight. Strength of schedule goes to Darrick Minner, and it's not close except for the strength of defeat. Ryan Hall did get fresh off a loss from Ilia Topuria, who is undefeated. Other than that, wins over Elkins, whom Darrick Minner lost to by knockout. Not a great look there. DraftKings points per minute for Hall going way down, all the way to damn near 1. We're on the other side for Minner, climbing up almost to 6.5. And the projections very low for Ryan Hall for the most part, and much higher for Darrick Minner. And then the real estate on the visual recap obviously goes to Minner with the win percent for Hall, and that's about it. Maybe the distance striking points, but just by, a few, a handful, a smidge. Hardly any finishes in wins. Out of 6, they've had, 2 in the UFC? All of their losses in the UFC have been by finish. I'm fading the shit out of Ryan Hall. I wouldn't say I'm going to have him in 0 lineups, but like a very small percentage. Darrick Minner, I do like here for the decision. Even, I doubt you're submitting Ryan Hall by any means. I'm not hating on him that hard. But if there is someone to do it, it's Darrick Minner, whom has 22 wins by submission in his career. So 22 out of 38 wins are by submission. Next fight, Alex Perez taking on Matt Schnell. Perez 9,200, Schnell 7,000. Perez is a fantastic scorer. In fact, has the best raw DraftKings points per minute number in the flyweight division out of 31 guys. 4.76. And here, I just looked at this. I want to let you know there are 2 divisions now up here and 2 numbers. That is because the top fly right here, that's the weight class the fight is happening at. This one is the guy on the left, Alex Perez. And the bottom number, if that shows up, it means that the weight, one of the guys is moving a weight class. And in this case, it is Schnell, who last fought at bantamweight and is now fighting back at flyweight. So that explains that. Alex Perez, 4.76 per minute, first in the division, scores the 5th highest in a win, 106.82, gives up the 2nd lowest number of points in the division, 1.72. That is a great number, but when he loses, kind of a lot of points, 102.33, average value of 9.63. We're getting some great values from these guys here. I mean, he has the highest DKP per minute difference in the division, 3.04. That is fantastic. A great ceiling. Over here for Schnell, much lower numbers. Average is just over 2 DraftKings points per minute. Opponents score 2.79 per minute on him, 6.24 average value. Only scores 72.5 points in wins. That is terrible. Scores 109, or gets his opponents score 109.15 on him when he loses. That is over 4 losses, so that's not a small sample size. Averages 110 points given up per loss. Let's see where those come from. Knockout losses, 121.75. Bad number. Only gives up 71.34 in decisions, though. Scores 45.68 points in decision wins. That can't be right. That's insanely low. I mean, I know it says 17 right here, but that is out of 31, and a lot of some guys don't even have decision wins or don't have 3 fights. So that's got to be towards the lowest side of the division. Scores only 96.5 in a sub win. He's put up over 90 points in 2 fights, 2 wins, over 100 in 1 win, and never over 110. Meanwhile, has given up 110 in 3 out of 4 losses. Perez has scored over 110 twice, over 100 3 times, over 90 5 out of 6 times. He is scoring. And when he wins, he averages 66 bonus points. When he loses, he gives up 90. So first round loss is there. Matt Schnell, when he loses, gives up 75. Alex Perez has fantastic stats. That's what these numbers should tell you. I don't think he's first. He does have great stats, though. 83% takedown defense. I mean, come on. Matt Schnell, only 50% takedown defense. Is all green. All the stats go to Perez here. And these I handpicked the most important stats, the ones I think are most important and most relevant at a glance. I mean, he controls 91% of his grappling time. That is crazy. Strength of schedule. Both these guys are 3-2 in their last 5, but Alex Perez's strength of schedule is much better than Matt Schnell. And in their last 5, Alex Perez even has the better numbers literally everywhere. He is working people over. 12.8 ass whoop index, 1.8 power index. You love to see that from a flyweight. I mean, he's got a takedown differential of 1.5, over 1.5. He lost to the former champion Figueiredo in his last fight, but he is bouncing back from that. It has been over a year, but I expect he's put the work in. So in the last 5, he's lost to, Joey B and Figueiredo, former champ. Schnell has lost to Bontarin and Pantoja, beaten Nam, Espinoza, and Smolka. So, not great, not terrible. Trending up is Perez, raw DraftKings points per minute, while it appears Schnell is trending down just barely. Very low projections for Matt Schnell here. A bit better from Alex Perez, 93 in a decision win, 112 in a first round win. I am going Perez here. I mean, look at this real estate. He is literally has better numbers, winning numbers than Schnell absolutely everywhere. It's not close. And then the finish rate, cumulative finish rate, tells me this is going to end inside the distance. I'm on the Perez side, and I will be paying $9,200 for him in several lineups. I'm fading Schnell, like I said. I don't think he's going to win the fight. The average is 73, not even 73 points per win. And he's given up a ton when he loses here. Guys, let's go to the next one. Miranda Maverick going against Aaron Blanchfield. Let's see here. 8,400 for Maverick, 7,800 for Blanchfield. Blanchfield only had one fight in the UFC so far, but she did dominate in a decision win. She put up 6.4 DraftKings points per minute, allowed only 1.15. She ended up with 126 DraftKings points in that fight. A huge value, 13.4. That's about all we need to talk about for Blanchfield. Maverick scores pretty well, 3.48 per minute, gives up less than 2 per minute. 104 DraftKings points per win. That's what we like to see. Allows only 54 DraftKings points in a loss. That's only one loss, but still. Pretty decent value, and she is under her average price, as is Blanchfield, well under her salary from last time, which was $9,400. Maverick scores 109 in knockout wins, 98 in decision wins, very good number. We just have the one number for Blanchfield here. Miranda Maverick only has 3 fights, but she has put up 90 in all 3 of those fights, in both of her wins. She is 2-1. In one of her wins, she did score over 100. 70.5 points have come from striking, 16.4 from takedowns, and 10 from control time. So she is averaging 60 bonus points per win, giving up only 30 in a loss. Meanwhile, Blanchfield scored almost 60 grappling points in her fight against Sarah Alpar. That is insane. 3 takedowns, 64, almost 65% control time. Wow. That is nuts. Blanchfield, only one fight, very small sample size. You cannot, it's too early in her career for all that. Strength of schedule, though. Both these women 4-1 in their last 5. But Blanchfield has the tougher strength of schedule, and it's, tougher by a few points all around. Pretty crazy. Maverick, who is looking very good, beat Jojua and Robertson, who is also fighting on this card, and split decision loss to Macy Barber. Very close fight, which according to the stats overall, Maverick won. So there you go. Trending up, way up on striking is Maverick, and here are the projections. Blanchfield very high because of her 126-point outing in her last fight. A huge piece of the pie missing here for Blanchfield because no finish wins in the UFC. But give her time. Who knows what she can do. And that's going to be about that. I don't know where I'm leaning this way in this one, honestly. I'm not betting it. As far as DraftKings points, they both score a huge amount. They are both capable of scoring a huge amount, so I'm going to have pieces of both of them. Next fight, Andre Muniz. Oh, that's going to bother me. Here we go. Going against Eric Anders. Muniz. 8,500 on DraftKings. 7,700 is Eric Anders. I'm going to be fading Eric Anders pretty hard this week. Not only do I think Muniz is going to win, he does average only 93 points per win. That is not a great number. 3.14 points per minute. Gives up only 2.7 per minute. Best average value in the middleweight division, though. 11.83. Average salary, 7,800. I mean, this guy's been flying under the radar. Eric Anders, 2.85 DraftKings points per minute, gives up 2.41, scores only 88.87 in wins, gives up only 80 in losses. So, you know, unless you really think Andre or Eric is going to get a finish here, I mean, neither of these guys score very well. Muniz 101 points per sub win, 76 in decisions, not great. Eric Anders 101 points in knockout wins, 86 points in decisions, also not great. Only concedes 65 points per decision loss, 101 in knockout loss. So not too many high scores going around for these guys. In fact, Muniz has never scored over 110. He has scored over 100 one time, and he's never lost, so he's never given up any points over 90. Eric Anders has scored 110 in one fight, has scored over 100 in two fights, never given up 110, but has given up, 100 twice in his 5 losses. Averages only 33 points against in bonus points, gets 52 per win, and Muniz averages 70 bonus points per win. 13, run-of-the-mill numbers here for both guys. Obviously, Eric Anders, the better striker. Andre Muniz, the better ground game. Although Eric Anders does have a fantastic takedown defense, 76.67. But the strength of schedule, it goes to Muniz, and it's not very close. He has a 1.38 takedown diff compared to a 0.29 takedown diff. But Eric Anders killing the control time in the last 5. Muniz negative control time in his last 5. But wins over Souza, first round sub by broken arm. Fabinski and Arroyo. And then Eric Anders, the Stewart series. Jotko, Mearshart, and Moreira. Trending way up is Muniz as far as raw DraftKings points per minute. Trending way down is Eric Anders, but average is pretty high above his opponent there. And then the winning projections per round. I mean, huge graph for Muniz here. That has a lot to do with his win percentage in the UFC and his finish win percentage. But still, dominating Eric Anders graphically here. And then not too many, I was going to say not too many, but over half of their wins by finishes in the UFC, 55%, and then 20% of their losses are by finish in the UFC. I'm leaning Muniz here until he gives me a reason not to. I'm probably going to have a little bit of both guys just for the sub prop for Muniz and the knockout prop for Anders, but not a ton. I'm going to have less Anders than Muniz this week for sure. But I will have a bit of both. All right, guys, on to the prelims. Bruno Silva, the middleweight, going against Jordan Wright. Let's see here. Very little UFC experience for both guys. 9,400 salary for Silva, 6,800, the second lowest on the card for Wright. This is going to be knockout or bust pretty much for Wright. Silva's got him dominated everywhere, although only scores 2.7 DraftKings points per minute, and neither of these guys have rank, or I guess Jordan Wright does. Silva has no rankings. Only scores 91 points in his wins, gives up a ton of points, 4.66 per minute. Has a really good value though, 10.63 on his 2 UFC wins. But this is a huge negative DraftKings points per minute number. On the other side, Jordan Wright scores the highest DraftKings points in the middleweight division, 6.41 per minute. That is a huge number. But look right down here, 6.67 or 6.76. That is an even huger number than the one above. I mean, how do you score 6.41 points a minute and get outscored? That is fucking crazy. Has a huge value though, 9.9. His average salary only 7,700. He's way below that in this one. So if you're a Jordan Wright guy, now's the fucking time. Like Oren Ishii said. DraftKings points per win for Jordan Wright, 109.86. Gives up even more than that, 113.67. I mean, this is, you fight Jordan Wright, you're either getting knocked out and he's scoring a ton of points, or you're scoring a ton of points on him, probably even more than he would have scored on you. Not too much data in this category here. Jordan Wright, like we said, 109.86 in knockout wins, gives up 113 when he gets knocked out. In one of Silva's wins, he's put up over 100. Wright has put up over 110 once and over 100 in both of his wins, and he's given up 110 in his one loss. Huge number of bonus points for and against for Jordan Wright. Like I said, all or nothing for him. Bruno Silva, huge number as well, 67.5 on average for bonus points in his wins. This is going to be who gets the knockout first. I mean, look at this. Bruno Silva, 18 knockout wins, never been knocked out. That's 18 wins out of 21 by knockout. Jordan Wright has 7 wins out of 12 by knockout. That is 25 out of 33 wins between these two ended by knockout. That is absolutely insane. So definitely got to have a part of both of these guys for the early first round finish props. Here are the DraftKings points per minute. Graphs trending up, but so are Bruno Silva's opponents. In fact, everyone's trending up everywhere. Opponents and fighters. It's a score fest for both of these guys. More so on Jordan Wright, but if you're fighting Jordan Wright, it could be a score fest for you. So very high projections from both of these guys. Whoever wins here, I predict, is going to go on the optimal. I mean, huge real estate for both fighters. 100% finishes and wins, 100% finishes and losses for both of these guys. I mean, 90% in their career, 85% in losses. This is going to be a finish, and whoever gets it is going to score a ton. So you got to have Silva in lineups, and you got to have Jordan Wright in some of your lineups too. Obviously, don't stack them, but I mean, who's stacking stuff for the most part in UFC? Anyways, I know there are exceptions, but next fight, Tai Tuivasa going against Augusto Sakai. Tuivasa 8,300, Sakai 7,900. Very evenly matched fight. Tuivasa averaging 3 raw DraftKings points per minute, 15th highest in the heavyweight division. That is out of 44 fighters. Gives up 2.83 per minute, so he has a positive differential. Average value of 8.71, almost in the top 10 there, and he is $422 below his average salary. Very, very good, since he has the 12th highest value. In wins, he averages almost 106 points. That is 11th highest. He gives up exactly 100 points per loss. 5th highest ceiling on the card. Scoop up Tuivasa this week. Put him in your lineups. Let's go to the other side. Augusto Sakai, 2.53 DraftKings points per minute, or 2.53. Is that what I said? Maybe. Gives up more than that, though. 2.62 per minute for a negative differential. Average value of 8.2, so decent. And he is also cheaper than his average salary by $200. Here's the problem. In 4 wins, he averages only 87.29 points. That's not going to do it for me. 30th out of 44 heavyweights. Look at this, though. He's giving up 105.47. That is very low. Actually, no, it's not. Never mind. I'm reading that backwards. It is pretty high. He's given up a lot of points. You know, almost the exact amount of points that Tuivasa scores per win. Imagine that. 13th highest ceiling on the card. DraftKings scoring by method, 115 for Sakai when he wins by knockout, only 60 when he wins in split decision. Gives up 105 per knockout. Tuivasa just under Sakai in this category, 114 per knockout, 64 per decision, so you definitely do not want a piece of these fighters if it's going to decision. You don't want that. But is it going to go to decision? Tuivasa gives up the second lowest number of DraftKings points when he gets knocked out. Gives up 120 in sub losses. We don't have to worry about that here. Neither of these guys has a submission anywhere on their record. Actually, Tuivasa has been submitted once. But other than that, no submissions. Tuivasa, 3 fights out of 6 3 wins out of 6. He's scored over 110 points. 5 out of 6 over 100. You got to have him in your lineup. Has given up 110 before as well. Sakai, on the other hand, has scored over 110 once, over 100 once, and over 90 just twice. Gives up over 100 in both of his losses, though. A lot of points given up by Sakai here. And Tuivasa has definitely taken advantage of scoring. Look at this, 84 bonus points per fight. He's had, or per win. He's had 6 wins. That's a fantastic average. 10th highest in the division. Gives up under 60 bonus points when he loses. And Sakai over here giving up 65 in a loss, 25 grappling points, and 15 stand-up points. So that is quite a bit. Stat-wise, they're pretty evenly matched, with Tuivasa being the better striker for the most part. But Sakai has the slightly better takedown game, it looks like. And the control time is pretty even from these stats. Last 5, 3-2, both guys. Strength of schedule is pretty even, with Tuivasa's strength of defeat being much better. Last 5 stats is going to go to Augusto Sakai, with the exception of ass whoop index, strikes per minute, and that huge power number from Tuivasa, 2.19. That is a gigantic power index number. Knocked out Greg Hardy, knocked out Hunsucker, knocked out Struve, all in the first round in his last 3 fights. Got subbed by Spivak and a decision from Ivanov. Meanwhile, Sakai knocked out in the first by Rosenstrike, knocked out in the 5th by Overeem, and then a few decisions with a knockout win over Tybura. Trending way up for Tuivasa in DraftKings points while his opponents trend down. This is a fantastic graph. Sakai trending down while his opponents are going slightly up. And here are my projections. Much higher for Tuivasa, who I am picking to win this fight. I mean, look at this. Much more real estate for Tuivasa, especially when it comes to finishes and scoring. The finish and scoring side. This side of the graph is very important. And Tuivasa is dominating. I mean, look at these finishes and wins and losses. Very high numbers. I mean, if this goes to decision, I'd be shocked. These guys will be exhausted. I think somebody's getting knocked out, and I think it's going to be Sakai. It could very easily be Tuivasa, though. So you got to have both in your lineups. I'm going to have more on the Tuivasa side, especially, 8,300. That is a great price for Tuivasa, who scores 106 points per win. Next fight, Pedro Munhoz going against Dominic Cruz. These guys are both $8,100 salary. Let's do this quick here. Munhoz, 2.95 DraftKings points per minute, gives up 2.76, has a positive differential, has a decent value of 8.47, and he's right at his average salary. Scores just under 100 DraftKings points per win, gives up only 82 in losses. That is very, very good. Great defensive DraftKings plays there. Dominic Cruz scoring just under, actually 2.96 to 2.95. Dominic Cruz just edging out Munhoz DraftKings points per minute. Gives up only 1.85 per minute. That is fantastic. Average value in 8 fights, 10.65. Actually, probably not 8 fights because he took a long time off. I probably only have 3 or 4 salaries in here for him. Either way, he's also right at his average salary. Scores 106 DraftKings points in wins. Gives up 95 in losses. Munhoz, I mean, both of these guys in knockout wins are scoring 111, 112 points. Munhoz, 95 points per sub. Look at this number. Decision wins for Cruz. 3rd highest in the bantamweight division. 114.5 points scored in decisions. Even in split decisions, he's scoring 91 points. That is amazing. Gives up only 84 in decision losses and 107 when he gets knocked out. Meanwhile, Pedro Munhoz giving up almost 90 in decision losses. That's a pretty high number. Let's go on to scoring percentages. 4 of 9 wins for Munhoz. He has scored over 110. 6 wins over 100. That is fantastic. He's only given up 90 3 times. Never 100. Never triple-digit score given up by Munhoz. Something to think about. Dominic Cruz has scored over 110 in 2 of his fights. 3 over 100. He's given up 100 in 1 fight. No one's ever scored 110 on him. So pretty good defense from both of these guys when it comes to DraftKings points against. I mean, look at this graph from Cruz. Talk about consistency. Over 30 stand-up points, over 30 grappling points, and 40 bonus points. That's giving you 100 points right there. That's putting you on the optimal lineup probably, especially at that price. He does give up 50 bonus points on average in his 2 losses. Meanwhile, Munhoz, very good finisher, 67 bonus points per win. In his losses, he's only given up 30, but he has given up a ton of striking points in his losses. 45 striking points in his losses. You know who's a pretty good striker? Off the top of my head, Dominic Cruz. Something to think about. Although he is, his numbers do not reflect that. Pedro Munhoz, though, getting hit with 6 strikes a minute. That is crazy. Has a great takedown defense, 80%. Cruz's is even higher. I'm really looking forward to this fight, you guys. Last 5, Munhoz is 2-3, Dominic is 3-2, and the strength of schedule is damn near identical. And they're both great numbers. Both these guys, a fantastic last 5 strength of schedule. But the stats all lean towards Cruz in the last 5. The ass whoop index, the power index, everything except that chin. He has been knocked down. Casey Kenny got that win over Casey Kenny. Meanwhile, Munhoz's last fight was a loss to Jose Aldo. And then Cruz losing to Cejudo and Garbrandt, 2 former champs. Faber, Dillashaw, also champs, not Faber, but Dillashaw. Yeah, pretty good fights from both of these guys. Munhoz trending way down as far as DraftKings points goes. Cruz, it does look like he's barely trending up, but his opponents are trending up at a steeper rate. Here are the projections. Not very high unless you get a finish. I probably didn't need to say that. And there is the real estate for the visual recap. And not high finish numbers at all from these guys. I am expecting a decision. I'm leaning Cruz probably, but honestly, it's a pick'em, 8,100. If you think one of these guys is going to get a finish, it doesn't matter. They're both the same salary. But I'm probably going to be kind of fading this fight. I do expect it to go to decision, and I don't really expect high scores out of Munhoz. But Cruz, look at this. I mean, like we already looked at, 115 points in decision wins. So I'm probably going to have more Cruz than Munhoz here. Pretty much based on that one statistic. Dan Ige going against Josh Emmett. What a fight this one's going to be. Ige, 7,400. Josh Emmett, 8,800. Ige, 2.65 DraftKings points per minute, allows 2.52, positive differential, fantastic average value, 9.85, and he is $500 cheaper than his average. Scores 96.5 DraftKings points in wins, 85 in losses. On the other side, Josh Emmett, 3.4 DraftKings points per minute, gives up only 2.08. That is the 10th lowest number in the division. 1.32 differential, has an even, or just almost the same average value, 9.77. As Dan Ige, and he is going to be about $800 more than his average salary at $8,000. DraftKings points per win, 95.1, so neither of these guys are huge scorers when they win. Only gives up 75 when he loses, though, so this is not a fight I'm going to be targeting very high. I think this is another decision fight, and I don't think either of these guys score too well. But that said, Ige scores very well when he gets a knockout, 128. Pretty well when he gets a sub, 109, and almost 88 when he gets a decision, unanimous decision. Gives up only 85 in decision losses. Meanwhile, Josh Emmett scores pretty low when he gets a knockout, but when he gets a decision, 111.15. That is a great number. And he gives up only 90 points when he gets knocked out. Very interesting. So good defense from both of these guys. Ige has scored over 110 in 2 of his 7 wins. In 3 of his 7 wins, he has scored over 100, and he has given up 110 one time. Meanwhile, Emmett, 43% of his wins. What's that? 3 of his 7 wins, he scored over 110 points. 5 out of 7 wins, he has put up over 100, and he's never given up even 90 points. Never. Scoring here, pretty high striking points for Emmett. 31 is a very good number. Even 15 grappling points, 50 points, bonus points per win, pretty good. Ige gets a bit more finishes, or early finishes, I should say, 62, almost 63 bonus points, gives up only 30 in losses. Strength of schedule, it's much better for Dan Ige compared to Josh Emmett. But in the last 5, the statistics speak for themselves. Emmett I mean, just killing it everywhere except for the Chindex. And he's coming off 3 wins in a row. His only loss to Jeremy Stevens. And Ige has lost to Chang Sung Jung and Calvin Cater in his last 5. Trending up, though, Dan Ige trending way up while his opponent is way down as far as DraftKings points. And same with Josh Emmett, way higher than his opponents are. And like I said, if you think this is going to be a finish, go ahead and pick your guy right here. I'm personally leaning decision. Probably Josh Emmett, but I mean, both of these guys have power. So we have huge real estate, especially in the winning percentage here from both of them. Last 5 strength of victory, DraftKings points per win. Decent numbers. I'm not going crazy over this fight, though. I mean, look at these finish by win percentages. This is going to be a decision, most likely. So I'm not expecting either one to make optimal. All right, on to the main card. Since we're at about 45 minutes here, and I have 5 fights left, I'll try to get through this as quick as possible. Sean O'Malley going against Rowley and Paiva. O'Malley, 9,100. Paiva, 7,100. I'm leaning O'Malley here, and it's not even close. I know there's people, O'Malley haters is what they are. I'm just more of an even keel. I'm just an observer. I am the unbiased observer. But what I do observe is a lot of hate on O'Malley, saying that Paiva has some chance to beat this dude. I mean, he could knock him out, but the stats certainly don't say that. O'Malley averaging 4.33 DraftKings points per minute. That is the 5th highest in the bantamweight division. Gives up only 2 points a minute. Huge striking or DraftKings points per minute differential. Average value 9.8. Insanely high. 16th highest out of 79 fighters. Average salary, he is right at his average salary. Paiva is $1,000 cheaper than he usually is. I wonder why. 2.32 DraftKings points per minute. That's it. Gives up 3.14. That is 41 out of 79. Scores only 77 points when he wins. That is terrible. Gives up only 85 when he loses. That's not bad. Average value 6.5. Has one of the lowest ceilings on the card. When O'Malley wins by knockout, 112 points. When he wins by decision, 83 points. When he loses by knockout, not even 100 points to his opponent. By knockout, I mean TKO. That was that Cheeto Vera fight. Paiva scores 107 in a knockout win. Only 52.89 in decision win. That is extremely low. O'Malley, 5 out of 6 wins over 90. 4 out of 6 over 100. And 1 out of 6 over 110. Never given up more than 100 points. Paiva has scored over 100 in one of his wins, never 110, and has given up over 100 in one of his losses. I mean, the stand-up numbers for... Why did that just turn off? The stand-up numbers for Sean O'Malley are crazy. The striking points per win, 41.93 for O'Malley. First in the division. I mean, gives up the lowest number of striking points, the 9th lowest number of grappling points. I mean, 55 bonus points when he wins. That is fantastic. Paiva giving up 60 bonus points when he loses. I mean, the striking numbers, obviously, O'Malley everywhere. Even the takedown numbers for the most part. Not the grappling numbers, though. And certainly not the strength of schedule. We all know that. I've seen 85 gifs of people crushing cans this week. Sean O'Malley has a decently bad strength of schedule. Going to go up against Paiva, who's is pretty average, good to average. Almost 75 across the board. But these last 5 stats are not even close. I mean, Paiva is negative everywhere except for control time. O'Malley is 6.5 strikes per minute difference from his opponents. 25, almost 26 ass whoop index. Perfect chindex and a huge power number. I mean, come on. Come on. Look at this. His graph isn't even touching his opponents. It's way above, trending up. And it's the complete opposite for Paiva, who's getting smashed in DraftKings points per minute. And here are the projections. Here's the graph right here. I mean, that is huge, huge real estate for Sean O'Malley. The only thing Paiva has is the strength of victory in his last 5, and just barely the grappling points. That is it. Do I expect to finish here? Yeah, I'm leaning O'Malley inside the distance. I will have a decent amount of O'Malley. Maybe a couple lamps with Paiva in it, but he scores 77 in a win, so maybe not any with Paiva in it. I don't know. I'm not going to just... probably not going to have 0 of anyone on this card. But I'm not going to have a ton, that's for sure. Next fight, Cachoeira France going against Cody Garbrandt. Flyweight fight, Cody moving down. Cachoeira France 7,500, Cody Garbrandt 8,700. Kai averages 3.15 DraftKings points per minute. That is the 8th highest in the flyweight division. Gives up only 2.41, so a positive differential. Average value of 7.7, and he is $1,400 cheaper than his average salary. Scores only 85 points in a win. That is disappointing. Gives up less than 89 points, so that is pretty good. Cody Garbrandt on the other side scores 2.6 DraftKings points per minute. Gives up 2.28. He is only $200 more than his average salary, and he has a much better average value than France at 8.27. He scores much better than France as well, 98 points per win. That's pretty good. It's not triple digits, but it's okay. He gives up 113.5 when he loses. So if Cody gets knocked out, he's giving up shitloads of points. Not good ceilings for either of these guys. How are they scoring per method? When Cachoeira France knocks you out, 106.83 per win, 85 in a decision, not terrible. 104 per win for Cody in a knockout, 83.5 per decision. He's given up a lot of points when he gets knocked out. He's given up a ton of points in decisions. Almost 114 points given up in his decision losses. That is crazy. Meanwhile, Cachoeira France only giving up 66 in his losses. 110 when he gets subbed, but Cody's not going to sub you. We're not even thinking about that. In 2 out of 5 wins, Cachoeira France has put up over 100, and he has scored over 110 once. He's only given up 110 one time in his career. Meanwhile, Garbrandt, 5 out of 7 wins over 90, 4 out of 7 wins over 90, 3 out of 7 wins over 100, and only 1 over 110. Meanwhile, out of his 3 losses, 3 of them have given up 110 points or more. So he has given up a ton of points. 70 bonus points per loss. That is a huge number for 4 losses. That is crazy high. Cachoeira France with the better striking statistics than Cody Garbrandt. Very interesting. Both of them have a very good takedown defense. And then Garbrandt, more of a grappling time controlled, but we are expecting this to be a stand-up fight probably. Garbrandt with the much better strength of schedule, but a much worse last 5 record. 1-4 compared to 3-2 for Cachoeira France. But like I said, the strength of schedule just dominates France over here. Rob Font, Asuncao, Munhoz, Dillashaw. This guy's fought De La Rosa, Tyson Nam. He has fought the former champ, though. Trending up just barely in points per minute, but opponents trending up even steeper. Cody Garbrandt, very even keel. 2.28 on average per minute. Opponents trending down. You do like to see that. Garbrandt with much more real estate here on the graph. Some pretty low projections for the most part, especially in decisions. I don't know what I'm expecting in this one. The math says there's going to be a finish. You know, the probability side would be more than 50% likely for this to end in a finish. I just don't know. If it's going to be a finish, it's going to be a knockout. Both these guys score over 100 and some in their knockouts. I'll probably have a little bit more of Cachoeira France than Garbrandt, especially due to the salary, but I will have some both of these guys. Jeff Neal going against Santiago Ponzinibbio. I don't know what to think about this fight. I think Jeff Neal's going to be working his ass off. He wants to win here, especially so he can pay Saul Goodman, but I think he really is going to be working his ass off here. Neal, 8,000. Ponzinibbio, 8,200. Neal is a very good scorer. Over 3 points per minute. Gives up only 2.5 points per minute. 9.35 average value, and he is $800 cheaper than his average. He does score over triple figures in his wins. Almost 101 points per win. Gives up only 87 when he loses. Very good numbers there. Ponzinibbio, much lower from the offensive side of things. 2.84 points per minute, gives up 2.7, so a much closer differential there. Average value of just 8.14, and he's also cheaper than his average salary by about $500. Scores only 88 points per win. That is disappointing. But when he loses, which has happened 3 times in the UFC, he gives up 113.72. That is a ton of points. Ton of points. When Jeff Neal knocks you out, 108.6 DraftKings points per win. 97 when he wins by sub, and 80 when he wins by decision. Not too bad. Does not give up a lot of points in decision losses. Ponzinibbio scores 107 in knockout wins, gives up 108 when he gets knocked out, gives up 124, almost 125 in decision losses. That is crazy. Meanwhile, scores only 69 in decision wins. Jeff Neal, 3 out of 5 wins have scored over 100, and he has scored over 110 one time, given up over 100 points in just one of his 2 losses. Meanwhile, Ponzinibbio, 40% of the time over 100 points, 2 fights out of 10, or 2 wins out of 10 over 110 points. He has given up 110 points just one time, probably that huge decision loss that he had against Li Jingliang. Must have been. I don't know. That wasn't a decision. I don't know what's happening. I'm not going to spend too much time on it, though. 70 points per Neal, bonus points per fight on average, or per win, I should say. Meanwhile, Ponzinibbio giving up 63 when he loses. So that is a huge number of points. Ponzinibbio scoring almost 30 points of striking per win. Pretty good there. So 2 really good strikers, but Jeff Neal has the ground game advantage. Control time, takedown time, etc. Last 5, Neal is 3-2, Ponzinibbio 4-1, but Neal does have the better strength of schedule just by a couple points, but still, it is better. Ponzinibbio looking much better in his last 5. Wins over Nelson, Perry, Magny, and Baeza. Neal also has a win over Perry. Neal knocked him out, I believe. Yep, first round. Compared to Ponzinibbio's decision. Not that that really matters. Trending down in DraftKings points per minute is Jeff Neal over his last 5, same as Ponzinibbio, but at a much steeper rate. And his opponent's trending up in scoring as well. There are my fight projections. And then the visual recap for DraftKings wins. A bit better for Ponzinibbio, actually, in a few categories. Is this fight going to finish? I just don't know. I don't think so. I don't think this one finishes. I think this goes to decision. What are my scores here? Salaries, very even. I'm going to have some of both of these guys. Neither one score very well. Jeff Neal scores better than Ponzinibbio, and he is cheaper, so you probably have a little bit more of Jeff Neal. But if you think what happened at some point in the past 2 weeks outside of the cage for Jeff Neal is going to have an effect on him, then Ponzinibbio is only $200 more than Jeff Neal. So I personally think it doesn't matter. If anything, it's going to drive Jeff Neal to work even harder, hopefully. We'll see. Co-main event of the evening, and we're still under an hour. We'll be done in 10 minutes. Amanda Nunes going against Juliana Pena, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this fight because Amanda Nunes is going to beat the shit out of Juliana Pena. That's it. She's going to beat the makeup right off of her face. I don't. That sounded mean. I didn't mean for it to be mean like that, but I just noticed that Juliana Pena likes to train with makeup on, which I've noticed is very uncommon compared to everyone else that I see on Embedded. So that's just an observation. I wasn't trying to be mean. Nunes 9,500 compared to 6,500 salary for Pena, and it's for good reason. She scores almost 4 DraftKings points a minute, gives up the lowest amount per minute, 1.55, has a 12.12 average value. That's insanely high, first in the division. 111 DraftKings points per win, first in the division. Pena gives up only 81 points in a loss, so hey, if this goes to decision, then Nunes isn't going to score very well. But she might actually. Look at these numbers. 116 in knockout wins, 106 in sub wins, 118. She actually scores better in decision wins than she does in her knockout wins. So, yeah, I think you got to have Amanda Nunes in a bunch of lineups. You just have to. She's very expensive. In fact, she's the most expensive. But it's Amanda Nunes. There's a reason why she's the most expensive. She scored in 14 wins. I don't know the math on this. What, at least 6? 6 of those 14 wins over 110 points. 78.5% over 100 points, and she's only given up 90 once. That's it. Meanwhile, Pena doesn't give up a ton of points, so that's the only thing she has going for her here. But she does give up a ton of bonus points when she loses, 57.5. Amanda Nunes averaging 73 bonus points per fight. I mean, this is... I don't have to say anything. It's not close. Check the schedule. I mean, last 5 stats. I mean, everything. Everything. Amount of wins. I mean, come on. McMahon, Montano, and Zingano. I mean, come on. What are we doing here? And she's trending down because how do you keep up a 30-point performance like you did against Cyborg? So this is more normalized at this point. Just 5. You know, just 5. That's it. Or 4, I mean. And then Pena is trending down. You don't want to do that. And we do have all 5 rounds of projections opened up. No more blacked out cells over here. I mean, Amanda, look at these projections. You have to have Amanda in some of your lineups. I know she's expensive. You can't have her in you probably can't have her in 50% or anything, but you know, how many fighters do you put in 50% of lineups? And look at this real estate. It's not close except for the grappling points per win. And that's by just 7 points or so from Pena. Finish percentages, I mean, this is going to finish for sure. Not for sure. I think it's going to finish. I think Nunes is going to get the finish, and she's going to do extremely well. First round, I mean, that could put her on the optimal. Anything outside of the first round, she might be too expensive for the optimal unless we have a ton of dogs barking like we did last week, where the top 2 or 3 or I don't know how many of the highest salaried fighters all lost. So that was pretty interesting. Like I said, the winning optimal lineup was like $47,100, something crazy like that. Main event, guys. We're just over an hour, so I'll try to go through it quick. Dustin Poirier going against Charles do Bronx Oliveira. Let's see here. 8,600 for Dustin Poirier. 7,600 for Charles Oliveira. Poirier averaging 4.06 DraftKings points per minute. That is 7th highest out of 82 lightweight fighters. Gives up only 2.8 per minute. 1.22 differential. Has an average value of 10.5. That is the 6th highest. And he is just $300 above his average salary. So pretty good for a guy that scores 107 points per win. Gives up a lot of points when he loses, though. 101. Oliveira on the other side, 3.43 DraftKings points per minute, gives up only 2.75 for another positive differential. Decent value at 8.34, and he is well under his average salary, $869 under his average salary. He scores only 94.5 points per win. That is the 37th highest number out of 82 lightweights in the division. Not a ton, but gives up more than he averages, 96.5 points per loss. So both these guys giving up a decent amount of points when they lose, but pretty average for the division. When Poirier wins by knockout TKO, 114 points, 100 by sub, and over 100 by decision. That is the 5th highest number in the lightweight division, and he even scores over 100 in split decisions. So this is very consistent. Dustin Poirier scores well. Very well. I'm sure I'm not telling you anything you don't know. I'm just backing up that information with numbers. I mean, who scores like that in split decisions or decision wins? He does have a ton of 5-round fights, though, so that does give him an extra 10 minutes to score points in those decisions. So, you know, it is what it is. Gives up 104 when he gets knocked out, gives up 112 when he gets subbed, but only 73 when he loses by decision. He's scored over 90 points in 18 of 20 wins. 70% of his wins over 100 and 40%. So 8 of his 20 wins, he's scored over 110 points. He gives up points, though. Every one of his 5 losses, they've scored over 100. 4 of those 5, they scored over 110, and 2 of those 5, they scored over 100. Or 4 of them, they scored over 100, and 2, they've scored over 110. So he does give up a lot of points when he loses. Dustin Poirier. Charles Oliveira, 105 when he wins by knockout, 93.5 by sub, and 82 when he wins by decision. So much lower numbers than Poirier. Does not, when he gets knocked out, he gives up only 98, only 96 in subs, only 88 in decision losses. So for all the good scoring we have, offensive scoring from Poirier, we see the defensive scoring side of things from Charles Oliveira. When you win, you might not make the optimal lineup even if you finish. You might not. 73% of his 19 wins, I'm not doing that math in my head, he scored over 90, 31.5% of his 19 wins over 100, and 5% over 110. So not a great scorer. but his defense is good. He's only given up, or actually, what's that? 8 losses. So he has given up 90 or more in 6 losses, 37.5%. So that's 3 fights over 100. He's never given up over 110. So his defense is okay. He's never given up a ton of points. But when he does lose, his average bonus points given up, 71. So that is pretty high. When he wins, he's scoring 70, though. He's finishing people. Same with Poirier. 60 points here. Gives up a ton bonus points when he loses. That's the name of the game. I mean, we're splitting stats here at this point. Strength of schedule goes to Dustin Poirier, with the strength of victory being very close. Strength of defeat, Poirier's only lost to Khabib in his last 5, but we have no defeats from Charles Oliveira. He's not lost at all in his last 5. Here's the stats that get me. Look at these last 5 from Oliveira. I mean, they're decent, but compare them to Dustin's. Not good in his last 5. I mean, he has a negative ass whoop index. That's probably a lot to do with the Khabib fight, and the Max Holloway fight was extremely close. Same with the Dan Hooker fight, not a good ass whoop index there. So, I mean, Charles Oliveira is out here whooping people's asses for the most part. Poirier, looks great in all of his fights, but he's not getting as many finishes, especially in his last 5, as Oliveira. Oliveira in these past 5, 4 finishes. But he's also fighting Kevin Lee, Jared Gordon, and Nick Lentz instead of Dan Hooker, Khabib Nurmagomedov, and Max Holloway. So there is a difference. Poirier trending up, DraftKings points per minute, and Oliveira pretty much even keel, but or trending that way anyways. And then here are my projections. 5 rounds worth of projections. Whatever you think is going to happen, here we go. This is what you can take a look at. This is what I think is going to happen. Oliveira with the much higher finish win percent than Poirier. Almost 90% finish win rate for Oliveira. That is crazy. Higher bonus points, but the DraftKings points per win and the win percentage goes to Poirier. Average value per win as well. I mean, this one is like -3 or 400 to finish inside the distance, so nobody thinks this is going the distance, including myself. I'm leaning... God, I don't know. I honestly don't know. I'm leaning Poirier, I think, by the slimmest of margins, but on DraftKings, I might have more Oliveira just because of the price difference, the salary difference. Poirier has that huge DraftKings points per win number, though. That is a big number, but he also has this huge DraftKings points given up in losses. So I might have a little bit more Oliveira, but I'm going to have a decent amount of both of these guys. I know it. All right, guys, we've done it. All 15 fights, just over an hour. I really appreciate you sticking around. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I do not have any other videos coming out this week. I will put out, in fact, and I'll show it to you again this time, since I didn't show it yet. My DraftKings, actually no, I'm gonna post that later. My DraftKings recap, I'll post it on Twitter. Couple of breakdowns of fades, couple of core plays, and all the stats you could need just at a glance. I'll post that on my Twitter at Monkmatics, and that is how you pronounce my name. It's not Monk MMA Ticks. It's not Monk Manalytics, although that's a pretty good name, Monk Manalytics. It's Monkmatics, like mathematics, but I'm Monk, so it's Monkmatics. I'm the Monk Petition. You understand? You get it? Monkmatics, hit that channel, hit the like, hit the subscribe, and that just keeps me going, you guys. Keeps me wanting to put this stuff out every single week, which can be cumbersome here when you have 15 fights, but it's a pay-per-view in the last one of the year, and I am absolutely here for it. So I really hope some of this information helped you. Now that you are armed to the teeth with numbers and what you need to do, get those lineups filled out, and let's take down some of these contests, you guys. Let's get it done. We all got to win some money some of the time. Why is your time not now? So good for you for doing your research. Do your fight tape, figure out who's going to win, figure out who's going to finish, and then use my projections to help you fill out those lineups. So thanks again for sticking around. Hit that like and subscribe. And you know what? Enjoy the fights, enjoy your week, and we will see you next time. Peace out, guys.